Well, now that the dust has settled from MLB teams non-tendering their players, we are talking about which of those guys might be a great fit for the Diamondbacks. Also, Yu-Min Lin is a champion, and we are going to celebrate him. All this right now in 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX Dbacks podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This man next to me is my vice mayor, and your thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Friedman. And of course, large intimate Kevin Thomas is on the ones and twos today. Happy Thanksgiving week to you all. Happy Friendsgiving Day from PHNX HQ. We, of course, we're the sweetest podcast on the network. So, of course, Jesse brought pie and I brought sweet potato casserole because that's what we do. But we are very thankful to have you guys here. And we're very thankful, of course, to be celebrating, I guess, all of our friends around here. I want to start off because I know he would not want to do it at all in any way, but congratulating this guy on his big nomination today, along with Gerald and Craig. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it, but shout out to our writers around here for PHNX for being not only recognized, but rightfully so, because they're doing some amazing work. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, make sure to go to gophnx.com, check that out. Get that diehard membership right now. That way you don't miss out on any of the wonderful stories, including your piece on Yu-Min Lin, which was really, really, really good. And of course, we're going to talk about him winning well, not him alone, but being a big part of his team winning the Premier 12 tournament. But first, of course, we do have, Jesse, some other news to talk about, and that's non-tender news. Arizona Diamondbacks didn't really lose a whole lot of guys. They didn't non-tender any of the candidates that we had discussed, but there is a good chance here that the Diamondbacks might be able to add to this team based on what other teams had to do at the deadline there for their 40-man roster spots.
Yeah, I guess real quick, we can touch on the one player that the Diamondbacks did non-tender, which is Brandon Hughes. Someone I did have on my list. We didn't wind up talking about him in our show before the non-tender deadline. But yeah, Brandon Hughes is a guy who does have minor league options remaining, so the Diamondbacks could have tendered him a contract and had him as kind of an up and down guy serving as depth. But we did see Brandon Hughes in the majors on a couple of occasions in 2024. And it wasn't pretty, Derek. He was able to get some swing and miss, but he also gave up quite a few home runs, and that was a bit of an issue for him. He was also non-tendered by the Chicago Cubs a year ago, so this makes the second consecutive non-tender for Brandon Hughes. I wasn't particularly shocked that the Diamondbacks did that, but some of the other candidates we discussed, Kyle Nelson, the Diamondbacks did tender a contract to him, as well as Jose Herrera. He was also tendered a contract, so no huge surprises with any of that, really.
But there are some surprises about the players that could be available for the Diamondbacks to pick up based on other teams non-tendering those players. And, of course, that's the most intriguing part because we do know that the Dbacks were going to be active, but some of these guys kind of fit a need that they have, and not just a need that they have, a need I have. And that need is to bring Josh Rojas home. There is nothing more I want more than that. And the Seattle Mariners non-tendered Josh Rojas, making him available. The arbitration estimate, it was $4.3 million. And apparently that was too much for the Mariners to keep him around. If we take a look at his stats from 2024, you can see here, Rojas didn't have his greatest year there. Things started off very hot for him in his time with Seattle, but he definitely cooled down, slashing 225, 304, 336 with 8 home runs, 31 RBI, and a FWAR of 1.9. But yeah, I mean, again, just a guy that would be a good fit based on those numbers. Not a great fit, but
sure,
just a good fit to come back and I think add some versatility, add some depth to this team that they lost in a guy like Kevin Newman. I think the vibes would be off the charts if you brought Rojas back. I think it would turn him into a superhuman. That's what I think it would do. I think bringing him back to the Valley and having him be on the Diamondbacks once again would bring those numbers right back up. But I mean, again, he had pretty good numbers defensively at third base in his time with Seattle. His offensive numbers there that we showed aren't great, but his defense was solid.
It really was. Yeah. And even the offensive numbers, I mean, you see a slash line of 225, 304, 336, and it's like, that's well below average offensively. But Absolutely. You do have to remember that he's playing in Seattle, which is graded out as one of the most pitcher-friendly parks in all of baseball. That slash line actually works out to a 91 OPS plus, which is not good, but it's not terrible either, right? I mean, I think Kevin Newman's OPS plus with the Diamondbacks this year was just shy of 100. So really not that much different than what Rojas ended up at for 2024. But you make a good point about his defense. 1.9 wins above replacement is a pretty decent number, and it comes as a result of Rojas grading out as one of the better infielder defenders in all of baseball in 2024. He played just under 1,000 innings at third base this year, 7 defensive run saves, 6 outs above average. Those are both really strong numbers. He's got some utility ability as well. He played some second base this year, graded out pretty well there. Played some left field as well. It's been a while since Josh Rojas has played shortstop, which I think might be a hindrance for the Diamondbacks. Kevin Newman played shortstop for the better part of 2 months for this team when Geraldo Perdomo was down with injury. And it was really important for the team to have someone who could step up and play that position. So I think that's where Rojas is maybe not ideal as a utility player. But yeah, on the whole, he had a decent season. It's not like he was terrible in 2024. The Mariners are in an interesting position right now, trying to figure out what their infield is going to look like moving forward, and they decided to move on without Rojas for right now.
Well, and I think the idea here is that Rojas would be a fairly cheap option, and again, when you talk about risk versus reward, the reward side could be that you see these numbers improve quite a bit at a much hitter friendlier ballpark. Bringing him back to Chase Field makes a lot of sense. And again, this isn't something you're necessarily doing for offense as much as you're looking for a guy that can provide you with an ample replacement at times for your infielders. And that's something Rojas can absolutely do. Defense at this point, based on what we saw last year, I think is more important than the offensive contributions. We saw guys like Blaze Alexander and Adrian Del Castillo come into these games and have big moments and be very good offensively when they were called up from AAA. However, their defensive gaffes might have cost the Diamondbacks more games at times than they potentially won. And there were quite a few of them, especially from Alexander playing as an infielder. Right. So the Diamondbacks had him last year as a viable option at times in the lineup. And that's just something that, again, that Rojas could essentially prevent. We also have heard from Mike Hazen or from that, article from Nick Pecoro that there's a good chance we could see Blaze Alexander and Jordan Lawler both play in the outfield, play center field. So
it's at least something that they're open to. We don't really know exactly where that's going to go.
Right. But that conversation is there, and it's something that they are open to. So again, there might be ways to find there might be a way to find Blaze Alexander time, where to play, to bring his offensive contributions and his amazing arm to the major league roster, but still not necessarily, having him as a defender there in the infield. I think that, again, Rojas is
you miss him, Derek.
I can't. What can I say?
Tell.
I miss him a lot. I miss him. I have never heard anybody give a better answer to our arbitration question when we asked them how things went than when Josh Rojas. I mean, his attitude there alone is worth the asking price, I think, and the fact that he was so easygoing about such a terrible process. But
do you remember in I think it was near the beginning of the 2023 season when you tweeted out from the PHNX Dbacks account, referring to someday, like on April 21st, Josh Rojas was hitting 318 or something like that. And you said, we miss that version of Josh Rojas. And Josh Rojas found the tweet and quote tweeted it and said, me too. And that sort of took off. And that was the kind of player that Josh Rojas was for this team. someone who takes accountability, someone who is a fantastic interview. I can say as a journalist, we would love talking with Josh Rojas after games to get his perspective on things. From a clubhouse standpoint, from a personality standpoint, you love everything that guy brings to the table. It's just a matter of kind of figuring out what his future looks like in the majors at this point. And I do still think, as we said, I think he still has value. I don't know if it's going to make sense for the Dbacks, though. I think having a right-handed hitting utility guy, as they did with Kevin Newman, probably makes more sense than having a left-handed hitting utility guy. Rojas struggled against lefties in 2024. He had a 357 OPS against lefties, which is pretty rough. So I don't know if it's going to be in Arizona, but you hope that a guy like Rojas finds an opportunity somewhere else and gets a chance to play and kind of show what he can do. I'm
sure he will, because I think he's going to be too valuable in too many other areas. Like I said, if you're just looking for a guy that can come in and play, fill holes defensively at times, especially considering we know how the season goes, you're not going to get through a season injury-free. Having someone like Rojas that can back up at times and also fill in should an injury happen somewhere in your lineup is key. And again, just give him a new, I guess a new home. The get him out of Seattle. The dreary weather isn't for him. He's too bright of a personality. He needs more sunshine. So bring him back home. Another guy the Diamondbacks could take a look at that would fill some of their needs as far as in the bullpen is Kyle Finnegan, Jesse, who was recently non-tendered. Let's take a look at his numbers from 2024.
Yeah, 63 2/3 innings, a 3.68 ERA, 1.34 WHIP, 22.1% strikeout rate, which is basically right at league average, 8.9% walk rate, which is basically also right at league average. But he was 38 for 43 in save opportunities, which is pretty impressive. I mean, that's a success rate of just about 90%. However, he did have one blown save that Diamondbacks fans will remember.
I remember that one
very well.
I remember that one.
July 29th, Kyle Finnegan gave up 5 runs against the Diamondbacks, including a 2-run walk-off home run by Corbin Carroll. And my tinfoil hat theory on this, Derek, is that, which take this with a grain of salt. I sort of feel like the Nationals were planning on trading Kyle Finnegan, and then he gave up 5 runs to the Diamondbacks the day before the trade deadline. And then some teams were like, maybe we'll look a different direction for our closer the rest of the season. I don't know if that's actually true, but his arbitration estimate was $8.6 million, which is a decent chunk of change. And you look at some of the underlying numbers here. While he did have overall success as a closer in 2024, these underlying numbers are not indicative of like a high leverage, top-notch back-end reliever.
Well, and I also remember it going to another level of conspiracy theory, thinking that this was the Diamondbacks doing it to him on purpose.
Right.
And
so
him allowing for it to happen.
They could acquire him the next day.
Acquire him for cheaper, and Kyle was in on it, and it just didn't go their way. And
they already had Dylan Floro
exactly.
change
We
jerseys,
walked across the field. We were hoping to get Kyle Finnegan too. But, I mean, there's something to be said about the fact that we were looking at Kyle Finnegan as a potential trade target for the Diamondbacks prior to that whole incident that happened there on July 29th. So the Diamondbacks have an opportunity now to go out. And as Cam said here in the chat, he said, I wanted us to trade for Finnegan. Now we can get him for cash. Let's do it. I think that there's a mold that he fits that is so eerie here. And that is, like Jesse said, it's not that his stuff is overpowering. You look at his strikeout
he throws
percentage.
Hard. He throws 97.
That's not what I'm talking about.
His velo
has not.
But
I'm talking about his strikeout numbers. I'm talking about his walk percentage. And I'm talking about him being very much like Paul Sewald. I'm talking about him very much being like Mark Melancon. I'm talking about him very much being like almost every closer the Diamondbacks have had, even the successful ones. Fernando Rodney had like 40 saves, and nobody knew how he did it. Nobody at all. Nobody had a clue how that happened. We were just like, what? He has how many? So that's why I think he might fit the mold very well here for the Diamondbacks. They seem to get relievers that, again, their numbers aren't overpowering when you look at them. They're not dominating. They're not, one of these other guys that we've taken a look at as a closer, but they can get the job done. And Finnegan seems like that kind of guy. I think the other thing here is that the Diamondbacks are going to be looking for a back-end reliever. And even if it's not, even if Kyle Finnegan isn't necessarily the closer, to be able to add him to this bullpen, even as a high leverage guy, it could be huge for this team. I mean, it could be a good chance to add him. And if they don't, obviously get the job done on another deal that would bring a closer here, either through free agency or through a trade, he could be that for the Diamondbacks. And I think he could still do a good job, especially with AJ Puck and Justin Martinez as guys that essentially would set him up there in the 7th and the 8th.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see what his market looks like if teams are planning on signing him to be a closer. Like we said earlier, 38 for 43 in save opportunities. Like, that's really good. I think his ERA was on the higher end because when he did blow a save, it maybe looked something like that July 29th game where he gave up 5 runs in less than an inning, right? But yeah, Kyle Finnegan has a pretty solid track record of being able to get it done in the 9th inning. And like I said earlier, he does throw hard. His 4-seam fastball averaged 97.2 miles an hour in 2024. It hasn't regressed. It's not really moving in the wrong direction, but he just doesn't really have an elite level pitch. His splitter is a solid secondary pitch, but it's not an elite secondary pitch. He also has a slider that he throws about 5% of the time. Give right-handed hitters a different look every once in a while. So he has decent stuff, but he doesn't have elite level stuff. So I'll be curious to see what that market looks like this offseason.
Well, we have one other name before we throw to break, and that name is Austin Hayes, a guy who honestly had I guess slightly above average to average season last year, but again, could be a cheaper option for the Diamondbacks to take a look at. Let's take a look at his 2024 season. Austin /255, 303, 396 with 5 home runs, 20 RBI, and a 0.24.
Not great. These numbers do not jump off the page. However, Austin Hayes was an all-star last year in 2023.
He was.
His end of season numbers didn't necessarily jump off the page, but he had a really good first half. You look at his numbers over the last 3 years entering 2024, he hit 261, 313, 439, 54 home runs across those 3 seasons, 8.1 wins above replacement on Baseball Reference. Those are pretty solid numbers.
Sure.
Like, he's been a pretty decent regular for several seasons. What we saw in 2024 was his numbers against right-handed pitching just go to a dark place. Hayes has been very, very good against lefties. That's kind of been his calling card. And he continued to be great against lefties in 2024. He slashed 354, 405, 537 against lefties. The problem was that he also hit 203, 249, 320 against righties, which is, an OPS about 569. So that's sort of the player that you're looking at here, someone that you definitely want to really only face lefties if you can help it. And I do think, however, there could be a fit here, Derek, because Randall Grichuk, as of right now, is a free agent.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the role that he served for this team, right? Try to get that guy in the lineup against lefties as much as possible. Austin Hayes could make some sense for the Diamondbacks.
And again, I don't know. I mean, his arbitration estimate is $6.4 million.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Diamondbacks.
He's going to get less than that.
I was going to say, I don't know if the Diamondbacks want to commit nearly that much to Austin Hayes. But again, the arbitration estimates are all the reason why you could say that these teams parted ways with these guys instead of tendering them a contract.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
It doesn't necessarily mean that any of these guys are going to get this in free agency. It's the reason why Josh Rojas, being ARB estimate at $4.3 million is could mean that the Diamondbacks could get him for something like $3 or $2 million. And I mean, again, someone like Rojas that brings that kind of energy and that vibe, especially an edge to a team that at times needs that edge, the one that I'm talking about, Tommy Pham. So, Josh Rojas could be just a little bit more to this team than necessarily what he is on the field. And I think that's why he would be a great move to bring back. Kyle Finnegan, I think someone asked, and this would be an interesting question to you, Jesse. If they did get Finnegan, do you think they would still pursue that kind of, I guess, more expensive or I guess, closer, the high leverage arm that they're still seeking?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, Finnegan, his ARB estimate was $8.6 million. You definitely figure he's going to get a little bit less than that on the open market.
Not too much less.
Yeah, you're not getting Finnegan for $2 million. I don't think it's going to be higher than that. So,
and you might have to give him more years as well. It's not just going to be a 1-year deal.
That is also possible. So, like I said earlier, I'll be really curious to just see how it plays out, how teams are viewing him. If I'm the Diamondbacks, I don't know if I want Finnegan in the closer role. If I'm being totally honest, he seems like the kind of guy who's had success in that role in the past, but is not necessarily set up to have success in that role moving forward. Those strikeout numbers that we showed earlier are they're just not back end reliever level stuff. So if I'm signing Kyle Finnegan and I'm making him my closer on day one, I probably want like a pretty good contingency plan in place in case that doesn't work. He did have a 2.47 ERA in 2024 up until the day where the Diamondbacks sort of broke him, and then he had a 6.30 ERA from that day onward. So I think he could be a decent. In my mind, I view him as more of like a 6th, 7th inning reliever at this point than a true closer.
We broke him. We can rebuild him. We can make him stronger, faster, throw harder, all that stuff. You know how it goes. We got the
Diamondbacks track record in that regard is a little bit sketchy.
Biomechanics, Jesse. Biomechanics. Oh, the Diamondbacks do have some hard decisions ahead. Of course, we'll be talking about some more potential non-tender candidates on the other side of this break. So don't you go anywhere. Well, speaking of hard decisions, I'll tell you about a hard decision that isn't difficult, but it still might be a hard decision, and that's going with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. Does it work? Can you afford to find out that it doesn't work? Right now, that might not be the only decision you have to make, but I'll tell you this much. It shouldn't be a hard decision. I just wanted to see how many times I could get hard in there, but you get where I'm going with this. Blue Chew right now. Men everywhere excited to see the postman when your package has arrived. Your package has arrived. Oh, don't get shy on me now, large intimate. If you want to get down like large intimate, there's nothing sexier than confidence, and Blue Chew can give you confidence where it counts. And of course, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free when you use our promo code of ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 for shipping. Of course, that's bluechew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month for free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. All right. Well, of course, if you want a great night out, Blue Chew might be your way to go. But if you're looking for fun out here in the Valley, Gila River Resorts and Casinos has you covered because no one does it better. You can visit any one of their 4 locations to experience the best that the Valley has to offer. And of course, go all in on their over 4,500 slot machines and live table games, or catch all of the action at any of their sports books. Right now, you can get an unprecedented level of entertainment and excitement that you won't find anywhere else. So head over to any of the locations here for Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That includes Wild Horse Pass, Lone Butte, Vikiva, and Santan Mountain to experience the best and let them show you what the next level is all about. We will be hosting our Suns and Cardinals watch parties and more, including our Ask Archie Q&A live over there on December 4th. So make sure to join us at Wild Horse Pass for that. Stay tuned for more information on how to come hang out with us. And most importantly, you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. Well, Jesse, we do have a couple of more non-tendered candidates. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that were non-tendered that might look a little enticing to teams like the Diamondbacks, especially considering there were a few closers available out there on the market, Jesse. But and that's what they're, in the market for. But they're also still, I'm sure, would like to upgrade their bullpen, and some of these options are very attractive.
Yeah, well, someone in the chat just mentioned Jordan Romano, and you're reading our mind because Jordan Romano is the next player on our list. You look at his stats in 2024, you're not going to be too blown away. 13 2/3 innings, a 6.59 ERA, 1.46 WHIP, strikeout and walk rate's pretty unremarkable. He was 8 for 9 in save opportunities. Jordan Romano, Derek, did not pitch much this season because he had elbow surgery in July. And there was some optimism that he would be able to return in September, but the Toronto Blue Jays were not exactly in the hunt late in the season, and so they decided to just not bring Romano back at any point during the season. So it was a small sample size. He was due to make $7.75 million, or estimated to make $7.75 million in arbitration. The Blue Jays decided that was a little bit too much for them. But I will say about Jordan Romano, this is a guy who has an extremely good track record as a back-end reliever. He was an all-star in 2022. He was an all-star in 2023. From 2020 to 2023, he had a 2.29 ERA and went 97 for 109 in save opportunities. That's a success rate close to 90%, which is really good. So I think the big variable here is, do you believe that he's healthy? Do you believe that after this elbow surgery, he's going to be the same guy that he was before? If you do believe that, then you can talk yourself into Jordan Romano being one of the more intriguing high leverage reliever options on the market.
I don't know if there's a sport that you can talk about guys in the way that you can baseball, where you're like, yeah, this guy used to be like the best, most elite reliever in baseball, and now he has an 8.56 ERA.
Yeah,
and he's
now
pitching
he's
in Double
basically,
A. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy. And I mean, it's bad enough for position players because you see how those numbers can tend to fall off. But I feel like pitchers, it's even crazier, because even some of, obviously we know what's going on with Jordan Montgomery and the year he had, but there's just so many pitchers out there, especially some of these guys that have been non-tendered, where when you look at their numbers, you're like, how? And again, an injury usually is a big part of it. Usually that is something that changes a lot for a pitcher, especially an injury that could be a lasting injury that causes them to have to change their mechanics or cause them to lose speed, even, slight velocity on a fastball that might have been, I guess, average or mediocre. But Cam's 100% right. I've been burned before, and I don't trust pitchers named Jordan anymore. So I don't know if I could pull the trigger on this deal. I will say, though, that again, it's just fascinating to me that baseball is kind of that game that when you look at guys, their numbers when they were, they were an all-star 1 season ago, 2 seasons ago, but now you do question if that is the end, the end of them putting up numbers like that. That's the difference in this game between those legends, those all-stars, those guys that stick around and have a 10, 15-year career versus the ones that when you look back, you kind of think, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Wasn't he good in like 07? And that's what baseball can be, unfortunately. That's why it makes making these decisions about non-tendered, players so difficult. You don't know at this point if this is that point of their career or if we're just looking at, the big rebound, and that 2024 would be like his renaissance coming back, to the numbers that he had in 2022 and 23.
As intriguing as Romano is, I do have to ask the question of, like, are the Diamondbacks the right team to try to get him back on track?
Not in 25, I don't think.
Yeah, it's the Diamondbacks again. Like, they just don't really have a track record of being the team that you want to sign with if you were got hurt and you're trying to find your way back. If you're a pitcher, at least, like, they just don't really have a track record of helping guys rebound in that way. Sure. Whereas if Jordan Romano signs with the Dodgers, like, you can basically lock him in for 45 saves or something this season. Like, that's just sort of how things feel with an organization.
You guys call me the Dodger
like
fan on this podcast? Come on, let's go.
I'm expressing no fandom, Derek. I am simply stating the facts that like Daniel Hudson at age 38 with the Dodgers is like an elite back end reliever, and he's retiring after the season, like at the top of his game, right? Blake Trinan had all sorts of injuries. We talked about him the other day. I imagine he's just going to go back to the Dodgers again because they're a team that has a lot of success with those kind of pitchers. I don't know if the Diamondbacks are going to be the best fit for Romano. I'm not sure he's the best fit for them either, because I think this is a team that needs some stability. I'm not sure they're in a place to be taking chances on guys, especially back-end reliever types. I think they'd probably want someone who's a little bit more solid, but there's an intriguing element to his game. There's no doubt about it.
I'm convinced that the Dodgers have some form of the super soldier serum from like Captain America. Not like the serum, not they can't make super soldiers, but I'm convinced that they have something. It's not a performance enhancing drug, nor am I accusing Captain America of being on performance enhancing drugs. I'm just saying there's some Venn diagram thing there in the middle that explains why the Dodgers are able to do what they do. But we have one more name to talk about here before we move on, and that's Jon Berti. Jesse, this is a guy that, again, if you're talking about versatility, he played third base, second base, and left field in 2024 and was a fairly good defender over there at third base, a little bit above average. And I guess if you're talking about a guy that you're looking to kind of replace a Kevin Newman, to replace some of those backup roles, Jon Berti could be a good fit. Yeah,
he's out of everyone available in free agency for that utility role, Jon Berti, I think, makes a lot of sense. You see the numbers here for 2024, 273, 342, 318 slash line, 1 homer, 6 RBI. As you can probably tell, he did not play very much in 2024. He missed about a month with a groin strain early in the season, and then he missed about 3 months with a calf strain later in the season. So this is 74 plate appearances, 25 games that we're talking about here for Jon Berti. So he just was not healthy really at all in 2024, and you can kind of understand why the Yankees decided not to tender him a contract. But he did play a substantial amount of shortstop in 2023 when he was still with the Marlins, graded out pretty well defensively there. So I think he does make sense. He bats right-handed. He's a guy who can get on base, even though he doesn't have a ton of power. He still had 91st percentile sprint speed in 2024. This is a guy who's only a couple years removed from stealing over 40 bases.
Let's go with that mustache. So, let's go.
Yeah, the mustache as well.
The mustache stays, by the way. John, we're paying for the mustache if we bring you over.
Yeah, so I think Jon Berti could absolutely make sense for the Diamondbacks. Out of everyone on this list, he seems to be as a logical of a fit as anyone.
Tendy gang assemble. We got Mark Solera in the chat. We just need Cogs and maybe a few other CWP. But yeah, no, I mean the Tendy gang we're talking about in this case is more of the non-Tendy gang, but non-tenders nonetheless. There's some other notable names here that were non-tendered as well. Left-handed pitcher Brian Honeywell Jr., who's a reliever.
He pitched for the Dodgers in the World Series, I think in Game 5, I want to say. Yeah. If not in Game 5, like we saw him pitch multiple times throughout their postseason run.
And then Colin Poche.
Colin Pache.
Pache,
that's how you say that?
Yeah, he was drafted by the Diamondbacks, right?
He was, yeah. He was part of the Steven Souza Jr. trade. I think the Diamondbacks sent the Tampa Bay Rays a couple of players sort of after the fact, players to be named later. Colin Pache was one of those guys, and inevitably, when you send a sort of intriguing relief pitcher to Tampa Bay, they usually wind up being pretty good. And Colin Pache had some really good seasons. I don't think the D-backs really need a left-handed reliever, though, at least not as much. So that's why I didn't really see a great fit there
for Honeywell or Pache.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and again, I mean, the Diamondbacks can upgrade there at a lot of positions, right? Now, again, no attack on Joe Mantiply, but we know AJ Puck is elite. It wouldn't be the worst thing to add another more reliable arm there, but Mantiply is still here for the foreseeable future, and I think the Diamondbacks have other needs that they need to put before that. These, I guess, non-tenders kind of make their decisions a little bit more difficult, though. There's some more names out there. I mean, I guess more difficult and less difficult because there are.
It's always better to have more options.
Yeah, more options out there.
Yeah,
and I think there's something to be said about some of these backup kind of roles that the Diamondbacks still need to fill. We know first base is obvious. We know the Diamondbacks have kind of been vocal about going out there and getting a back end reliever, a closer that they can name the closer and not just not ever commit to. But like again, losing someone like Kevin Newman, losing the 2 DH. That the Diamondbacks are losing. These are all things that are definitely, going to change the complexion of the offense next year and change the versatility defensively that Torey Lovullo has to not only give guys days off, which he's always going to do, but he's also going to have injuries and things to deal with. I will say this, one interesting thing, Jesse, and I know we don't have the image of this, but Jock Peterson on his Instagram sent something out that was very interesting, which was just an image of him batting in a Serpientes uniform with 2 little devil emojis underneath him. It has to mean something. It has to mean that Jock Peterson's coming back, right? It has to mean that Jock Peterson, Randall Grichuk, the 2-headed devil, the 2-headed monster, right? They had a discussion and they just decided we're going to take less money and we're going to come back to the Diamondbacks to do this thing again. We're going to run it back.
It definitely would have been 1 devil emoji if he was implying that only he were coming back.
See?
But because it was 2 devil emojis, you're absolutely right, Derek.
Go
you
get
heard
us
it here first.
Caps.
Both Jock Peterson and Randall Grichuk are re-signing with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
You can't argue with people's Instagram. It's like last year when we said Geraldo Perdomo was leaving the team because he sent out those heartfelt messages.
Yeah, that wound up true, right?
It totally did, because he confronted me at spring training and told me, I see what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, again, the Diamondbacks definitely have a lot of decisions to make. These guys kind of do make those options, at least. They put some more options out there. And again, if you're losing some of the vibes, I bring it up again, but if you're losing some of the vibes, you can bring Josh Rojas back and he will replenish the vibes.
What are the Rockies doing? I mean, I feel like this is a question you can ask it basically any time of any day, and it generally is a fair question to ask. But the Rockies non-tendered Cal Quantrill, who's someone that they should have traded at the trade deadline and didn't. And they also non-tendered Brendan Rodgers, who, granted, I'm not here to say that like Brendan Rodgers was this awesome player in 2024. I think he was worth, one win above replacement. But Brendan Rodgers is a guy that the Rockies took third overall out of high school, potential star level player. And granted, he hasn't really developed into that player, but to just non-tender a guy like that, I found a little bit surprising. I don't really know what other alternatives the Rockies really have at this point at that position.
This is why Rockies fans are furious with the ownership group. What are you doing? Yeah. When do you rebuild? When do you when do you keep these guys around as you're building blocks towards the future? I don't know, but that's a frustrating thing to have to deal with. Also, you got to assign some players soon because the Angels are going to take everybody. So that needs to happen very quickly.
Every team needs to start. We need to get the hot stove rolling here, Derek.
I appreciate what the Angels are trying to do for us as a show, to be honest. They're trying to get things cooking. But, of course, you guys know what day it is. And we're going to celebrate that day on the other side of this break. So don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back. If you are looking to elevate your brand, you can elevate your brand with Branded Bills, which is the perfect headwear and apparel company. If you're looking to make some gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd, Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear. Start your order, and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel you need. Of course, if you're just looking for some amazing hats and apparel, you can visit their shop at brandedbills.com. They have a partnership with ASU and U of A. One of those schools is much better than the other. I'll let you figure out which one. That's part of their campus collection. It's a local company from right here in Mesa, Arizona. And of course, they have all sorts of wonderful hats about this wonderful state that we live in, as well as like some great holiday hats that you can get to, get yourself ready for the holiday season. My wife didn't let me put up my my lights this weekend. I'm still very mad about it. So I need a hat to get me more in the mood, and Branded Bills has me covered with their holiday hats. Head to brandedbills.com and use code PHNX for 20% off your first order right now. Of course, if you're looking to save some money, Desert Financial Credit Union is the place to do so. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. They got me started on my home ownership journey, and I'm so thankful that they did. And they can hopefully get you started as well, or get you the answers to whatever financial solutions you're looking for. You can look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. Join a credit union that is committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with their members. They are dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back and providing financial solutions that help make your life better. When you open a free checking account online over at Desert Financial, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200 right now. And of course, this is the time of year that we usually take money out so we can buy all these gifts that we need to buy. So maybe take a moment and put a little money in the savings account for the future for 2025 and invest in tomorrow. All right, Jesse. Well, we've got a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, it's Friendsgiving here at PHNX HQ, but that doesn't stop what we do here. Every year, of course, on this show is our year. Every month on this show is Hispanic Heritage Month. Every week on this show is Shark Week. Every day is Thanksgiving. But on Monday, we go to the mailbag. Large intimate, let's go to the mailbag. Let's go!
My mailbox, always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox. And then once in a while, there's a letter that makes me go, wow, wow, my mailbox.
All right, what do we got in the mailbox there, Kev?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today in the mailbag, we're going to go ahead and start right here with Silas, who wants to know, why do baseball managers and coaches wear uniforms? I have always found it silly, as though they are trying to cosplay as major league players. I can't think of another sport that does this. Is it just a tradition thing? It's baseball, so yes, it probably is.
Oh, my, Silas. Yes, we've actually had this exact conversation with Torey Lovello. He pointed out how ridiculous it would be if
Phil Jackson had
to wear a Laker uniform while he sat on the bench. Yeah, it is.
Or like imagining Bill Belichick.
Yeah, just in pads. Just forget the sleeveless hoodie, just in pads and a full helmet. Just rocking a headset with pads on, it would be incredible. But no,
just like so unnecessary.
it is.
You never know when the coach might get tackled on the sidelines, right? You got to be prepared.
You're going to hear some things as to the reason why they do it, like unity and it brings the team together and all of that. But none of that is true. The fact is that you're right. It is kind of a tradition. To be honest, a manager didn't really used to be a manager. Baseball teams, because of how many guys you had to have on a baseball team, they were kind of cheap. So they didn't actually have coaches. They just used to appoint one of the guys on the team as the coach. That's legitimate. The captain used to be the manager, and the captain used to be kind of responsible. And with time, teams actually decided to invest money in an actual guy that knew more about baseball than one of the players to be out there. Yes, Kev.
This is as the chat knows, I'm not as knowledgeable as you two are on the sport.
Yeah.
But as a Cardinals fan, I feel like this is the only sport, to your point, that like when intelligent veteran players are approaching retirement, they're already being thrown into managerial conversations. I remember when Yadier Molina was about to retire, we had some, Ali Marmol conversations. Yeah. People were like, why not just go get Yadi? And is this the only sport where recently retired veterans are really looked at as top head coaching candidates?
I think maybe without having that experience of going into the coaching world and like coaching at like a smaller level, maybe a collegiate level, and then going up. But
there are some in the NBA, right?
Yeah,
like
Jason Kidd,
Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, Chauncey Billups. I guess wasn't like too. I mean, he was kind of far removed from his playing days.
Yeah, he was. But like you think of like heady players, and it's always like, oh, down the road they're going to be such a good coach, like in 5 years after retirement. But like in baseball, it seems like once you leave, it's like get you in the dugout.
Well, especially like Stephen Vogt, right? Of the Guardians.
Yeah, he retired and literally jumped right to be a manager.
He retired he played in 2022 and he won the AL Manager of the Year award in 2024.
Yeah.
Shout out Stephen Vogt, Azusa Pacific.
He's got to get that in.
I have to get that in.
But I mean, again, the catcher rate is always kind of a big manager type, and you see a lot of catchers that become managers because they do have to manage the game themselves, behind the plate.
David Ross, I guess, being another example.
You also have the fact that Torey Lovullo has called Geraldo Perdomo his on-field general and manager at times, and you have Perdomo taking on those responsibilities. So back in the day, that's just kind of the way it was, and with time, it evolved into managers being a position but still wearing the uniform. I honestly think I still remember, because Steve Gilbert, Nick Piccoro, there was a few others, we all kind of piled on the conversation. And I remember Torey kind of stopped wearing his jersey after that. Like, he didn't come out in the uniform. And if you notice, Torey doesn't really wear his uniform that often. Jesse and I discussed it.
I'm pretty sure he always wears the uniform. He just wears like some sort of pullover jacket.
Here's the interesting thing. It's not requirement. It is not a requirement.
Yeah.
Managers do not have to wear the jersey, so they really can wear whatever they want. And again, I think
do you think they can truly wear whatever they want?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I mean, you had some guys back in the day. I can't think of it. Oh, the A's manager, Connie Mack, just used to wear a full suit. Imagine just a manager in the dugout wearing a full suit. Just a full suit, a tie, everything. Jesse pointed out before the show, how dirty would that suit get every day and night? You're going to go to clean that on a road trip 3 nights? I don't think so. You're wearing multiple suits? That's a crazy move.
What I think is the ideal attire for an MLB manager is the exact same attire as an MLB umpire. Like, if you're Torey Lovullo, you gotta dress up as an umpire.
Why? Just to show favoritism to him? Just to get him on your side? I'm like you. I'm one of you kind of deal? I don't know about that.
Maybe it could work. Nobody's tried it.
It's a crazy theory, but I'm
you're trying to tell me that an umpire is going to toss like one of his own?
I think he would toss you. I think the minute you walked out mocking him, he'd look over and be like, "What the hell? You're gone. I know what you're doing."
You might be right. You're probably right.
Yeah, man, they're sensitive.
What if he just wore like a t-shirt and jeans, like just like the most
that would be
standard,
wild, or like a t-shirt with like a sports coat, like he was going out for a night in Scottsdale. With some jeans and some boots. That'd be wild. He could wear it. According to MLB rules, he could wear it. They just do it based on tradition, I guess. So that's the way it is. But yeah, Gabriel Ferrer says it's not an MLB rule, but the Dbacks as an organization have a dress code for players and managers. It's in the clubhouse.
I've not noticed that in the clubhouse, but I'm sure that sounds like it is true. So,
all right. What else we got? That would not
surprise me.
Real quick, I do want to acknowledge the question Cam asked on the topic of former players becoming managers. Which D-back current would fill in as the best manager?
Ooh, that's a good question. Right now, like out there, I would say
Evan Longoria would have been a really easy answer a year ago at this time.
Yeah, you're right. Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen is who I think of. I don't know why. Zach Gallen is one of those guys that he doesn't need to look up answers to things about Major League Baseball. It's amazing the amount of knowledge he has about the game off the top of his head.
I view Gallen as more of like I could see Gallen becoming a pitching coach. I think that would fit him. Manager, Gino?
Yeah, Gino's a good pick.
Gino or Jose Herrera?
He's looking for you're looking for years of service there? Or
yeah, I'm looking for I mean, Jose Herrera has been around that long,
no.
but Jose Herrera is a guy that, you know, like when the Diamondbacks brought up Adrian Del Castillo, there were scenes that people probably saw on TV of Jose Herrera and Adrian Del Castillo, you know, chatting it up and Herrera kind of trying to help him adapt to the big leagues. It's not easy to do that as a new catcher entering the league.
Mark's right. It's Pavin. Pavin is the answer. It's Pavin Smith.
He's just like the catch-all answer
he
for
really
everything
is.
around
He
here.
it's like a Swiss Army knife. He fits everywhere. What else we got, Kev?
All right. Question number 2 comes from Gabby Dirth, and they want to know, are we sleeping on Sal Frank?
It's a good point. Andrew Saalfrank missed an entire season due to being suspended over gambling violations, and we do know at one point he was very, very good for this Diamondbacks team, at least inexplicably good. It seemed like during that stretch there in 2023 when they needed him kind of the most. He cooled off in the playoffs a bit, but I think that there's a couple of guys like Saalfrank that we could not really be thinking about as much based on time that they missed. I know Dre Jameson is another name that comes to mind that we often forget about Dre. I got to slip that in whenever I can. But, you know, when it comes to Saalfrank, I think like there is a lot of potential there. It's just still frustrating that he missed the time that he missed, and, you know, that we really don't know what he's going to be coming off of this kind of hiatus.
Yeah, it's a big unknown for me. You know, he was suspended in June, I think. So he's not going to be able to pitch in spring training, presumably. I mean, I imagine he can maybe do some work on backfield somewhere. I don't know if he's allowed to practice at the Diamondbacks facility. Maybe he could, you know, go to his own facility of some sort. But yeah, he was sort of an up and down guy for the team in 2024 before that suspension happened. And I imagine he would kind of serve that same role for the team after coming back from the suspension. He did in 2023, he did have some success, as you said, but the underlying numbers were never, you know, particularly jumping off the page. He only had 6 strikeouts in the 10 1/3 innings that he pitched in the regular season last year. And in the postseason, you know, he had some issues. Command is really what it's going to come down to for him. If he can really learn to spot up his sinker and throw that pitch for strikes, it's going to allow his curveball, which I think is a genuinely good pitch. It's going to allow that pitch to play up a lot more. What we've seen from him lately is just not throwing enough strikes to really entice anyone to swing out of the zone. So I think he has potential, but given that the Diamondbacks have AJ Puck now, and they did tender a contract to Kyle Nelson, of course, Joe Mantiply, you know, I think that Saalfrank is a ways down the left-handed reliever depth chart at this point.
I think the thing that's really sad here is that Andrew Saalfrank is still, you know, a pretty good pitcher, and this, you know, ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous for all reasons. I'm not even going to get into the suspension. I mean, it's ridiculous on his part because it's rules, and rules are simple, right? Like it's not a gray area. It's a fairly black and white kind of situation when it comes to gambling on baseball. So it's ridiculous that he's missed this time. It's also absurd that for less than $200 gambled, you know, his career could potentially be impacted in the way that it has. Yeah, I'm sure the Diamondbacks have a tremendous amount of disappointment, and he's going to have to do quite a bit to, you know, I guess even when he's back from this suspension, still kind of win over the people within the organization. I'm sure, you know, again, no matter how much he can still pitch. I'm sure there's still some residual anger over this entire situation. So just unfortunate, and it'll be interesting to see how it factors in next year and what the Diamondbacks, if there's still value there to major league level.
It's a learning experience for him for sure, right? I mean, yeah, as you said, it's not like he went out there and, bet 20 grand or anything like that. Like, it was a pretty small amount of money.
Crazy.
It happened back when he was in the minors. Like, it wasn't super recent either. It's just a really unfortunate mistake. And we'll see what he looks like when he gets back.
A friend of a friend lost $20,000 on the first night at his bachelor party weekend in Las Vegas, Jesse. That's a tremendous amount of money lost. And he doesn't want me ever telling that story. And I just did right here on this show. But I'll tell you this much. This is hopefully a learning experience, for everybody across baseball, that there is this zero tolerance policy. It should have already been known, but now it's real. So, we do have some more Mailbag Monday questions.
Before we go to this break, I have some bad news. We have to go to the bullpen, boys. We're bringing in the dog for the end of this mailbag. We're bringing in the dog.
What?
Yeah.
For who?
I mean, I'm being pulled right now.
Oh, you're being pulled.
I'm being pulled.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Well, I mean,
Derek thought that
I
he was
had
being
flashbacks
pulled.
to when you guys pulled me for Archie right now. So, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting pulled off set.
Derek thought he lost his job for a second.
I think that at least 3 times per week, but it's less often now that Saul Bookman is farther away from me. I will say this, though. We do have more Mailbag Monday questions, and I'm glad Damon is here to help us answer, and we're going to get to those on the other side of this break. Don't you guys go anywhere. Of course, we do have some fun stuff coming up, so if you are going to go anywhere, you got to join us for our PHNX events. Got to head over to gophnx.com/events to check out all the wonderful fun we are going to be having. Of course, we have our live Q&A with Archie Bradley on December 4th out there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Of course, you can join us out there, Wild Horse Pass for that. Diehards, absolutely free. If you are a non-diehard, you can still join us. I think it's a $5 fee. Just make sure, whether you're diehard or non-diehard, you get your tickets now over there at gophnx.com/events. And also make sure to join us for the Territorial Cup Takeover on November 30th. We're going to go down to U of A. ASU is going to finish the job. They're going to bring the Territorial Cup home. I'm glad Damon's here for this. We have a pregame meetup at Bourbon Bent in Tucson before the Sun Devils steamroll those Wildcats, and then food and drink is included. Game ticket to the Territorial Cup included, and fun, of course, is included.
Damon, are you just gonna let him?
He doesn't have a choice.
Say that?
He doesn't have a choice.
I just, there's not a whole lot I can come back with. What I will say is that we've had a little bit of a stint here with the Territorial Cup in its rightful place in Tucson, and it's just getting a little boring. So I get it. You guys, let's switch up the vibes. I guess I don't know.
I can't.
We'll let you.
I'm gonna put my profile picture back to me holding the cup. It was a good time. But also, of course, we know it's this time of the year. People might be coming to your place, not just going over to other people's place, like going down to Tucson and the Bourbon Bent. So, of course, if you have company coming over this holiday season, make sure you spruce up your home. A great way to do so is with new flooring from Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. So check out everything Empire Today has to offer. They will get you taken care of without you needing to come into a store and waste a bunch of time. They have a virtual floor designer, which will allow you to see how that flooring will look in any new space. They also offer a curated product selection. They'll find out what you're looking for. They'll find you flooring that matches your needs, and it'll take care of you looking through thousands of samples of flooring that you are not interested in. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. Well, we got a couple of more Mailbag Monday questions before we get out of here. I think most of them are Thanksgiving related. What do we got here? Damon Dog, what's our next question?
Forgive me, I don't know exactly what.
I think we're on
which
3. I think it's from the Adam.
But
this is the one. Yes, sir.
That's it.
Adam Fox here, speaking for the 12,899 followers of this speech. Always subject 1 because I'm assuring one Dodger troll follows this page.
Sure.
We expect a Friendsgiving Turkey Day picture of the crew.
Yes. Well, I think we have that. I think that our guy Kev just uploaded that before he left. There's the crew. Of course, without me and Jesse in there because we were doing show prep. Jesse was sitting on the floor somewhere eating his meal while
Our
researching
show
stuff.
time is brutal for Friendsgiving Day
It
at the
is.
office, Derek. Everyone in the office eats before us,
Yeah.
and we just have to like
Before
the
us?
aromas of all of the deliciousness
I got
are
mine
running
in,
to
Jesse.
the
I
office.
was the first person in line. I don't know what you're talking about.
Now
That's
you're just
crazy.
making me angrier.
Yeah,
by
I
saying
should.
that.
Well, I mean, I've tried to teach you. The one lesson that I have tried to teach you over the years has been you gotta get yours, right? You gotta look out for number one, selfishness. That's
you
what
really,
I've tried.
You squeezed that in, huh? You were able to eat before the show.
Oh yeah,
Impressive.
oh yeah. I mean, I had seconds, and I might even have thirds if there's anything left over after the show.
Let's hope there's something left over.
We'll see. We'll see. All right.
I mean,
well,
that was Jesse. That was a big issue. Remember when Max used to actually get us food on some days?
at
And
1
that
o'clock?
was
Yeah.
that was always an issue then too.
Yeah, we
just-
were thinking of changing our show time very seriously because
just because we were tired of missing out on
we
the
were
food.
tired of missing out on the office lunches.
Yeah.
It wasn't a happy time for us.
Yeah, we're just canceling the show on Mondays altogether. But then we wouldn't do this. So, we can't do that. All right, what else we got? We saved this one for you, Damon, of course.
Travis Moore says, "What dishes are Dbacks players bringing to Thanksgiving dinner? I'll sign one. Corn casserole with green chilies is a big side dish at our house, and I'll nominate Cattell for that one."
Jesse refuses to answer this
I
question
refuse to
anymore.
answer this question.
Yeah. We've received this question every single Thanksgiving, every single year we've existed. But I do much like green bean casserole. I do not care. It's a tradition, and whether I like it or not, we're still gonna do it. All right.
This is the thing about me and Derek. We'll answer every question.
We'll answer every single question, no matter how many times you ask.
refuse.
Jesse
I
doesn't love you
refuse.
like that, guys.
Right.
I care deeply about Travis Moore because he's a faithful viewer
Yeah.
and question submitter. I love you, Travis Moore, but also yes, we have answered this question year after year. So have at it, Derek. It's
Okay,
all
I'll go.
yours.
I got one, and then we'll get Damon in here too. Jordan Montgomery is bringing the store-bought potato salad. The disappointing one, the one that like Totri brought today, not like the homemade one that's good that you worked on, like so many of us put hours in slaving over a stove to make it. No. Nor did he pick an easy option, like just bringing cups or knives or forks or spoons.
Or
That's
rolls.
fine. Or rolls, like Damon did. See, Damon's a good boy. He just brought rolls. He knew he stayed in his lane, but he brought good rolls, and that's the point. Is even though he was assigned rolls, he still came through. Bringing store-bought potato salad is infuriating, and it's disappointing because someone went into the sign-up sheet and wrote potato salad and then put their name next to it and then brought that. And like you're hoping that things are going to be good with that potato salad, but then it could be a disappointment, like Jordan Montgomery.
I was gonna say Jordan Montgomery brought like all the desserts.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I mean that's a different lane that you decided to go in there.
Yeah, I'll wear that one.
I think
Christian Walker's bringing bourbon. I don't know if he counts anymore.
Christian Walker does count, and he's bringing entirely too much alcohol. Like we have to remind Christian when he came in, this isn't that kind of party, and he goes, "It is now," that kind of thing. That's how Christian Walker comes in. I think we've already discussed Jake McCarthy is definitely bringing the rolls like Damon would. Yeah. Right. I mean, the entire outfield is bringing like the forks and the cups and the spoons and everything, right? Alec Thomas, Corbin Carroll, none of those guys are cooking.
Yeah, Corbin's not cooking, that's for sure.
I think Gabby will bring like a time-tested recipe that's been in his family for generations. It's something. I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a stew or something that blows our mind. Like Max brings his grandma's matzo ball soup. So I think it would be something like that.
I think Paven brings like the whitest of all white people dishes. I don't know exactly what it is, but I can't put my finger on it.
Just
but
corn.
Yeah,
he
something.
just brings corn.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. That works. That plays.
Oh yeah. All right. I think we nailed that one, and Jesse didn't have to participate.
No,
so I think everything worked out. Let's get one more in, Damon, before we get going.
Michael Rokicki asks, "What Dbacks moment this season are you most thankful for?"
Oh, well, we're keeping this on the Paven track. It's the 3 home run Paven game, right? Like it has to be. No, I mean, I think we posted the video of the Corbin Carroll. We
did
the comeback, the big comeback. Which again, if you offset that with the 8-0 lead they lost in that other game, those two games kind of go both the ways that they should have, and we really shouldn't talk about them as often as we did. But that comeback was huge and made me believe in happiness again.
I think just as a journalist, like someone who writes about this team a lot, I love the storylines. I love the oddities, and Christian Walker's utter domination of Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
Like that just continues to confound. I don't understand it. He doesn't understand it. We kept asking him like day after day in those games at Dodger Stadium, like, how do you do this? And he just never really had a very good answer. But it's just one of those cool baseball things where sometimes you just can't really explain it. You can't predict it. And it just happens anyway. And if Christian Walker does in fact leave the Diamondbacks this offseason, that is one of the things that I will miss most about him as a player is just like knowing that when he goes to Dodger Stadium, he's going to become peak Barry Bonds and there's nothing that anyone can really do about it.
I gotta say Matt Hilton.
The B game.
How could you beat that?
The B game.
How could you beat that, right, Jesse?
Yeah, no, that was crazy.
It was good.
He don't. No.
It wasn't good. It was not good.
No, it wasn't. Mark Slayer, the pool game was incredible when we all had our little pool party out there.
That was something I'm genuinely thankful for. That was a blast.
Jesse's cannonball, easy number one.
Easy by far. I'll also throw in there just getting to know Jock Peterson and everything that is bizarrely unique about him as a person. I used to think lots of different things about Jock Peterson, and like after covering him for one single season, I think that he's just a really cool person that's just really out there and just kind of walks his own path in life. I appreciate that about him. I love his bat collection and the fact it's not just something he collects just for like collecting purposes. No, he has like a golf set of clubs that he uses for different scenarios from different players that he took bats from. But yeah, Jock Peterson, just not only is it what he did on the field for this team last year and, you know, how crazy of a person he seems to be, but, you know, genuinely how good of a mentor he became to some of these guys on the team. You just heard throughout the season so many good things about him from his teammates, and then Jake McCarthy kind of moving his locker over and officially becoming his Padawan is just something that I love so much.
I guess for people joining us on the TV side, they can join us over at gophnx.com.
Yeah, you can do that right now. We'll talk about Yu-Min Lin and the Chinese Taipei team winning the Premier 12 tournament. So make sure to join us over there. We thank you guys, as always, so much. Speaking of which, yes, that is exactly what happened on, what was that? So it was very early Saturday morning.
I think it was technically yesterday.
Yeah,
although the time zone there, it was probably Saturday our time.
Yeah.
But Sunday, and the game was played in Tokyo. I don't know the exact time difference there, but I know it's substantial.
That was the Premier 12 tournament, which we've talked about a little bit. We had a little bit of fun tracking that, and especially Yu-Min Lin and Taiwan winning the Premier 12 over the defending champion Japan, who was defeated after a 27 game winning streak.
Yeah, I keep like rereading this article on the Premier 12 website because I don't know if I believe that this is possible. But yes,
they don't play very many games.
They don't
so
play that
like
many games.
4 season winning streak, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't know exactly how many games you play in a given Premier 12 tournament, but yes, according to this article on the Premier 12 website, Japan had won 27 consecutive games going into that championship against Chinese Taipei, and that dates back to 2022. So yeah, it's pretty remarkable what Japan had accomplished, and they came into this game as favorites, and they did not win, Derek, because Yu-Min Lin pitched well, and Lyle Lin, former Diamondbacks prospect, hit a home run. There's another player for Taiwan that homered as well, and they shut out Japan 4-0.
Lin started the game. He went 4 innings. He allowed only 1 hit, no earned runs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. We also learned that the good people of Taiwan that are fans of Yu-Min Lin have nicknamed him Corn, and I don't know why.
Love it. We're gonna get on that.
We don't know why. We need to know why. Jesse, as a journalist, that's all. I'm like, no more articles, no more nothing until Jesse figures this out. I also want to know why his teammates call him Jimmy. So we have Jimmy.
I think that's pretty like
Is that like a?
I think
it's just based on his name.
Based on his name,
Okay.
I think is my understanding there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
but
I'm looking for a deeper meaning. I guess,
are we sure that corn wasn't like lost in translation somehow or something?
It could be, but they used on our video. They actually used
People
corn
were-
emojis.
Corn
right?
emojis. I was
Okay.
plugging it in and
Yeah,
translating
doing
it
a
from
translate?
Mandarin, and it was saying that they were calling him. They were like, "Corn is so handsome." Was one of the comments.
Yu-Min Lin is
He's such
adorable.
a sweet, cute boy.
Yeah, he's our handsome boy, Yu-Min Lin.
Derek, I'll go as far to say is no more nominations for Jesse until he finds out what the origin of corn
No,
was.
and there's no way we're going to promote him
Ridiculous.
being a part of this writing awards thing without, like, that's the real story, and he hasn't delivered that to us yet. So I don't know. I mean, the Premier 12 also doesn't happen every year, so that's the other thing about Japan's winning streak, right?
I think, and I need to dig into this more to fully understand, but I think the win streak is outside of just the tournament.
So
I think
so this
Japan
also
came in
like the World Baseball Classic, things like that, or
I'm not sure if they're including the World Baseball Classic in that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the 27 game win streak is not just these tournaments because there's only been a few of them. I think this was the third one,
and the next one is in 2027.
The next one is in 2027, right? So yeah, we'll try to get a better understanding of that. But yes, the larger story here is that Chinese Taipei went into this game very much being the underdog, and they found a way to win, and it was a great story. And Yu-Min Lin being the starting pitcher in that game, what an honor for him. And as I wrote in that story a week or so ago, like, this is a guy who loves his country and who wants to show kids back home in Taiwan that, like, this is possible. Baseball is huge in Taiwan, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and there have not been a whole lot of major leaguers over the years that have come out of that place. So moving forward, I think we might start to see a few more of them.
Well, and that's one thing that was tremendous in your article about Yu-Min Lin is that he wants to be that for the younger generation of Taiwanese baseball players. And again, this is an amazing step in the right direction, especially defeating someone, a team as good as Japan in the championship like this. So credit to them. They are the global champions. So and they get to hold that crown for 3 years. So that's kind of fun. That's good. That's good bragging rights.
Team USA bronze.
Hey,
could be worse.
Could be worse. At least they medaled. Right?
Matt Shaw wasn't. Matt Shaw and Rich Hill, just weren't quite what Team USA needed them to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dick Mountain ain't what it used to be, Jesse. That's the way that works.
The Team USA roster was we'll just say it left a little something to be desired from what it maybe could have been
for sure.
With a little bit more participation. So we don't see the best of best U.S. players participating in this tournament necessarily, but
particularly from a pitching standpoint.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, even offensively, I mean, Matt Shaw isn't a major leaguer, right? Like, he's a top prospect. I don't know if there were any current major leaguers that were actually there on the position player side.
Yu-Min Lin, also not a major leaguer, but also starting in the championship game. So it's kind of the way that tournament goes. However, that's our champion. That's our bad Jimmy. Ernesto, he's with me. I've been making that joke all day. He said there's a Jimmy crack corn joke in there somewhere. I agree with that. Gabriel says corn in Mandarin sounds like Yumi. So maybe like the Yumi is like Yu-Min Lin. Like Yumi might be a nickname. And what they're actually saying is Yumi, but the translator is translating it to corn. However,
hey, that's a decent theory, Derek.
It's a good lead.
I mean, I could be that. I still saw the corn emojis, so maybe it's both. So I don't know. But we appreciate you guys, of course, so much for stopping by. We appreciate your questions on Mailbag Monday, as always. And most importantly, we appreciate you for loving the Arizona Diamondbacks. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Cap_caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, Damon Dog is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are and always will be Damon's Dogs. Bark.
Wow.
Our
feels
show.
like we haven't done that in quite a while.
It feels like old times. Our show is at PHNX_Dbacks, but of course, all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for stopping by. We appreciate your time, and we will see you tomorrow right back here at 1 p.m. Until then, hope you have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when our show doesn't coincide with the same time as Friendsgiving.
We all silly like the mayor.